Hi Year 11, this is your analysis using POL, that's Purpose, Organisation, Language and Emotion, of The Yellow Palm by Robert Minhinnick. This is to help you with your poetry exam, so make sure you've got a pen or a few different coloured pens with you, and your anthology, as you'll need it to take notes. This poem contains quite a few difficult words, so before you listen to a reading, have a quick read through these definitions about the different words relating to either Islamic culture and religion or relating to Iraq and Baghdad itself. This poem is quite an interesting one. It's basically a first-person recount from a man walking down the main street in Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, and he's describing what he sees as he goes down the street. Minhinnick, when he was talking about this poem, said he didn't want to give a specific message or criticise anybody. He was just recounting and retelling his experiences. To me, it seems he's writing to convey two journeys, literally the man walking down a street, and metaphorically the difficult attempt to recover from the effects of the war and conflict in Iraq. He also prompts the reader to think about possible links between religion and war. This poem is written as a take on a ballad. This is a poetic form that usually has 4-line stanzas, although this has 6, and the lines alternate between long and short. Ballads have strong rhythm and rhyme schemes. Just like this, you can see that lines 2 and 4 in every stanza rhyme. Ballads are the oldest poetic form, found in almost every country as far back as 1,000 years, and I think Minhinnick might have used this form because war and conflict is another thing found in almost every country for as long as anyone can imagine. Another thing to consider is that the extra 2 lines on each stanza are almost the most important, as they give the crucial and often contrasting details to the image set up in the first 4 lines. Moving away from form, the poem is organised so that each stanza is a single sentence. This gives the idea that each image is viewed a distance apart as he gets further down the road. And to me it gives the feeling that conflict and the results of conflict are widespread and easily seen everywhere he looks. Sequencing is also interesting. The stanza seems to be more positive in tone as the poem goes on, and the last stanza is all positive, maybe suggesting that Baghdad is recovering from the damages of war, or maybe just showing that despite the hardships people are facing, life must go on. For the language, as usual, there's so much to cover, especially in this poem, but I'm not going to go into every single little detail, we'd be here for ages. Instead, I'm just going to consider the use of repetition, sensory descriptions, contrasts, colours, and a few interesting words. Firstly, the repetition of "as I made my way down Palestine Street" in each stanza is probably one of the most noticeable things about this poem. The poet said he wrote this after walking up and down Palestine Street, and this repetition seems to link with those separate, single-sentence stanzas to reinforce the idea of each image being at a different place on the street. This shows how devastation is widespread. It also highlights the fact that this is a journey and possibly even a struggle, so he keeps going and going but doesn't seem to come to an end. Secondly, in each paragraph he also focuses on different senses, the things he sees, hears, people's hands that he touches, and what he smells, almost creating the idea of an attack on the senses. You will definitely want to go through and highlight some of those sensory words. Next is the contrasts of war and pain, with things like religion, innocence, weakness, and vulnerability. They're all conveyed in each stanza. So generally you get the positive image, the people that you almost feel sympathy for, or the images that are very peaceful in the first 4 lines. And then there's a negative image of war and conflict in the extra 2 lines. So at first we have a coffin made of glass. This is something that has been used in the past for saints or really respected people. Or maybe it could show fragility through the glass, and it contains a man who's been killed in a chemical gas attack. so a really violent, horrible way to die. There's then a golden mosque that should be filled with faithful Muslims praying, but it's being attacked and has blood on the walls. Maybe it's either being vandalised by those of a different faith, or it could have been targeted with a bomb or a missile, and it's the blood of the people inside that's covering the walls. In the next stanza, there's two blind beggars, and they were actually part of the Imperial Guard, so this is Saddam Hussein's bodyguards, showing how the powerful have fallen and how this has ruined really strong men. Next is a stanza that contrasts the peaceful river, so the actual nature of the city, with the barbarian, cruel and harsh sun that won't stop making life difficult. Even though the fighting's come to an end, the sun won't give in. And then finally, the only stanza that breaks this is about the cruise missile. So there's a really strong and quite shocking image created here, in which the young beggar child is watching a missile passing by. He doesn't understand how violent and threatening it is, so he just smiles at it, this strange thing. Lastly are those colours and interesting words. So in the title and the poem, you've got the phrase yellow palms. Yellow is the colour of death and decay, but also the yellow palms are vital in Iraq. They give fruit, they give shade from the barbarian sun, and they also provide building materials. Then lilac is mentioned in the first stanza. This is the colour of young love, so that intensifies that sort of peaceful and quite positive description of the funeral. The dinars, the banknotes, are black, and this is almost always quite a negative colour with connotations of depression, death, negativity. Then there's also a silver caravan. So the silver caravan refers to the missiles moving through the dusty country, almost like a row of camels. So camels walking together are known as a caravan. And this silver is like quite a strong colour. You think of a lot of weapons made out of silver. And all of these colours create a really vivid, lively image of Iraq, but then it's made much darker and tainted through this war and conflict. Finally, it's interesting to note that all of the people described are either weak or vulnerable people. So we've got women, we've got children and the handicapped, maybe showing how war has devastated people as well as the landscape. You don't get any strong soldiers or any really tough people described in this. It's all quite weak, vulnerable people. You'll probably be quite happy to know I'm not going to say too much on the subject of emotion. So the poet here basically seems unaffected and quite unemotional, as if he's accustomed to the sights, as if he sees them daily and has become numb to them. This might be because that's actually what's happened, or maybe he's trying to give an objective view and let the reader or the audience come to their own judgments. So think about your reactions. What do you think about the situations? What emotions does he make you feel when he's presenting this conflict? Right, so here's your time to check through your annotations. Make sure you have all these important keywords. Sanctuary in particular is something you might not have in there, and it just means a place to find safety and peace. So think about which stanza might be presenting the image of a sanctuary, or maybe a sanctuary that's been damaged. As always, I've added you a few links for extra research, and I will put the links in the YouTube comments, the summary box as well. So feel free to have a little look through these and add to your notes, and if you're still struggling with the poem, you might want to just have a read of these or have a watch and see if you can understand it a little bit better. And then finally, just make sure you've got all of the quotes in orange, highlighted or underlined in your anthology. See if you can make a few comments about each of them. If you're unsure, remember you can just email me and ask, or ask me in class next lesson. So well done, and I'll see you all soon.